What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary, and I'm here with my beautiful wife. Say hi, boo.
Hi everyone, I'm Akdi and I'm from Turkey, and today we are reviewing Spermworld.
Yes, this is not an adult-themed amusement park. This is an actual documentary that came out this year that premiered on Hulu and FX, and it's directed by Lance Oppenheim, and it's about prolific sperm donors, guys who just don't know how to keep their junk in their pants and want to share their spunk with everybody. So we just watched it today, and I can say I really enjoyed it. It's one of the most unique documentaries in how it's shot and how it tells the story. But how did you feel about it when we watched it?
Yeah, even though I fell asleep the first time we watched it, I actually liked it too. It wasn't because I was bored, I was just tired, but for me it was it's like almost like a satire, but it's not also, and it's very real. And like how the documentary captured, the lives of these people was very interesting because this is not something you would think about in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, definitely. I want to say Lance Oppenheim, the guy who made this film, he's only 26 years old and he's a new filmmaker. And I can say, I really like the lighting that he did in his film, the cinematography. Like, this isn't that typical documentary where, everything is trying to have hyper realism. This one has a sort of like dreamy aesthetic to it. There are shots where the people are like in blue colored rooms. Everything turns purple. The people are giving their accounts and testimonies while laying down on the couch or on the floor. There's like a real sort of artistry that went into making this documentary that I think really sets it apart from other kinds of documentaries that might tell a similar story or even other stories. But what did you think about Lance Oppenheim's direction in this film?
Yeah, definitely. Like, even though this might be a documentary, I don't think it lacks from those like cinematic decisions that he made because, like you said, there's like very sort of somber shots and then very ethereal shots that like combine with the lighting and the music and everything. So, yeah, I think like he was very much able to capture like the emotions that some of the people were going through.
Yeah.
And I do also have to say, like, when I was researching about this documentary, this is not his first documentary. He also has another one. I forgot the name, but that one is also a documentary about like this retired people's facility in Florida. And it is like somewhat similar because it's telling like a very interesting story as well. And I would love to see that as well.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what Oppenheim is going to do. And I would like to see that documentary too, which is called Some Kind of Heaven. It came out about 4 years ago. But I'm very excited to see what he does in his career because he seems like a young director with this new sort of aesthetic and style. And I like it. I like it so far. It wasn't overdone in this film. Like, this easily could have been a really shitty art piece. But he pulled it off by telling this story in a tender way, a nuanced way, a complex way.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like it could have been one of those like Netflix documentaries where, everything is just like so unbelievable. But this one had like a more humane approach to everything that was going on with these people.
Yeah, like Netflix has a documentary out right now that I wanted to watch with you. It's like a 3-part series. It's called The Man with 100 Kids. And it's about like this Dutch guy who does pretty much the same thing these guys do in this story, but he is a bit outlandish. And that's what I think is the difference in the Netflix documentary and how this story is taught. Like, Netflix finds like the craziest people that ever existed, like Tiger King, and just tells the story. And we're just bought into it. Meanwhile, this guy took like regular ass people, like normal looking ass people and acting people, except Ari. Ari is extreme. Ari is the character. But generally, like, normal ass people, and told it in a tender way with like a artistic twist.
Yeah, definitely agree. Like, I don't know, like those other Netflix documentaries feel more like clickbait.
Yeah, Tinder Swindler.
And yeah, like all of those things. And this one is actually like I don't know. I really liked how, like, we saw the people in this documentary, how their day to day lives, how it affects their relationships and everything. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
it was
complexity of
definitely
it
pretty
all.
cool.
Like the way it's shot, it's like an episode of Snowfall mixed with like a very high end A24 film. Like that's that's the aesthetic this film has, and I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was giving me a little bit of like euphoria.
Yeah, I've never seen an episode of Euphoria except for the one where Zendaya got crackhead superpowers, so I don't know.
But yeah, no, it was definitely like more than a documentary.
Yeah, yeah. But let's walk through the story a little bit. So the story really centers around like three guys, Tyree Kelly, Steve Walker, and Ari Nagel, and their lives as prolific sperm donors in the underground. Because, sperm donation, when I think a lot of people think of it, they think about going to like a sperm bank or something like that. But in reality, there's like, the sperm bank donation side, but there's also people that are doing donations for people by contacting them over the internet. And that person will either do natural insemination or artificial insemination. And it's up to those individuals to decide, okay, do we want this person to get tested? Do we want to do AI or NI? Like, do we want to actually have contact with the donor after the child is born? Like, that sort of stuff, right? So it's a more loose and free and a bit more dangerous way of getting pregnant for people. And the beginning shows this guy, I forgot his name, but this guy is on 90 Day Fiance right now. Do you remember the name of the guy?
No, I
Right,
don't.
right. But this like little dweeby looking dude is like meeting up with this woman in like a hotel room, and she's coming here to meet him in Santa Cruz, California. And when she opens the door, he's like, yeah, well, welcome. Come on in. Okay. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to finish inside you. Then I need you to do like a handstand off the side of the bed. And we can either pull out the mattress and help you balance or anything like that. And then while you're doing the handstand, you got to orgasm because that's the best way to make the cum as it's going inside of you, like drip and fall and make sure it hits the egg. And then she's like, how was your drive? How are you? So yeah, that goes to show like some of the awkwardness in these interactions. But what did you think of that opening scene?
Yeah, it was definitely very weird. And I mean, it made me understand like how women were approaching this because most of the time, like, especially in the first scene, there was like a woman who really wanted to become a mom and she was sort of like willing to go through whatever, even like, basically inseminate herself with a stranger's sperm. And like the way that she was talking about it, honestly, it felt like the guy, yes, he was like super weird in the beginning and it felt like, I don't know, he just wanted to maybe like have sex or have a kid that was his own and things like that. But it made me sort of start off the documentary thinking like, oh, these people are actually like helping these type of women who don't have any other choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like,
So that's what it made me think.
yeah. By the way, the guy's name is Kyle Gordy. And Kyle Gordy has something like, some people say like close to 1,000 kids. So he's a very,
That's
he's
insane.
a very prolific sperm donor. And I kind of wish that the documentary had more of Kyle in the story because he has an interesting, background as well. But, having Ari and Kyle in this documentary would have caused this thing to be like a Netflix doc, right? Just about the most ridiculous people you've ever seen on screen. So I could, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, maybe they didn't choose him because he was already sort of like social media famous or I don't know, like television
yeah.
famous, in terms of that. So they wanted to keep it maybe just one crazy
One
guy.
crazy guy. I mean, Ari's got a Wikipedia page, so he's pretty famous too. But, yeah, these other people aren't famous. Like, they look like regular Joes. And that brings us to like the next person that we sort of see in this documentary. And his name is Tyree Kelly, right? And he's, the only black man that we see in this film. And, he's sort of like a portly guy, kind of bigger, you know what I mean, has a beard, and he has like a checkered past, right? He's like, he went to prison for child endangerment that we find out later in the film. And apparently, he was living with this woman and he got into a fight with her son, and that's why he went to prison. And so, he's I get the feeling like Tyree, as the first character that we see, is doing this to sort of like show that he has like value in the world and like he has meaning and he is desired. You know what I mean? Because he maybe felt like a person who is shunned by society because of his background as a felon. But yeah, we first meet him and he's like, trying to talk to this Native American lesbian couple that's trying to get pregnant, and he's asking them some questions about their life and stuff like that. And he also has his fiance who comes with him to accompany him, and she's encouraging him in everything he's doing with artificial insemination of people who want to have kids. So what did you think about, Tyree when we're introduced to him?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on your theory that maybe this is like his way of sort of giving back after what's like happened to him, like going to prison and everything, something like that. So yeah, but I also feel like, I just felt like in general, Tyree and especially his wife or his girlfriend, I think they were married.
I think it's
Fiance, like they were just very, very nice people. Like especially his fiance, I just felt like such empathy towards her throughout the, documentary. It just felt like she was this type of person that was looking out for everyone and just giving a piece of herself to everyone. And maybe Tyree is a little bit like that, but she's more of that. So I definitely like loved her.
Yeah. His fiance's name is Natasha, right? And Natasha throughout this film, she wants to get pregnant too. In fact, when we first see Tyree, the lesbian couple asked Tyree, "Do you have kids?" And he's like, "I have kids, but her and I don't, but we're trying all the time." And Natasha makes a joke like, "I even have to ask for a schedule to meet him, because he's so busy donating all the time." Which, I feel like Natasha felt, I don't know, like a little bit like undesired. Like Tyree didn't make her feel wanted. Like there are some tender moments in this film because they do have like a nasty sex scene. But
Yeah.
I got the feeling like she didn't feel like he was fully committed to her. He was more committed to his work, even though he does it for free. But yeah, what did you think about that?
I mean, I just thought like that was especially hard for her because her husband or her fiance already has 2 kids before from previous marriage or relationship, right? And then he's continuously getting other women pregnant by AI, artificial insemination. But then she wants a family, she wants a kid, but she's not getting it. It's like, for me, for example, we don't have a kid right now, and I would feel uncomfortable if you wanted to donate your sperm for another couple. But if we had a kid and then you wanted to donate, I would definitely feel more comfortable with that. And I don't know, maybe it's like the, female ego in me, but I just wouldn't feel like, comfortable with that. Because that's kind of like taking away from something from me. If that makes sense.
I would like to know how you feel like that takes away from you, because let's say there is a lesbian couple that would want their kids to be short, bald, black, and poor. Like, for whatever reason they want that to happen. Why would you feel upset if I'm not going to be that kid's father? Like, I'm not in their lives, like anything like that.
I don't know. I would want, like, if that's gonna happen, I would want it to happen with us first and then other people. Like, sorry if I'm selfish in that way, but I just would want it with me first. Your first child, even though you might not be in his life or her life, I think it's still like something that I would carry it with me.
I understand where you're coming from. I think when it comes to Tyree and Natasha, I think, the way he's going about this probably makes her not trust him, because I think sometimes he drives off in a way to donate sperm by himself. And there is a possibility he might be doing natural insemination, meaning like having sex with these women. So I kind of got that vibe too from Natasha. Like, I like this guy. I love this guy. I want to marry him and have his kids too. But this guy might also be cheating in the guise of like, inseminating women. What do you think about that?
I don't think that was the issue. From what I understood, I felt like Tyrese was mostly helping lesbian women. And so in that sense, I don't think that was really the issue, because I doubt that lesbian woman would want natural insemination from him. And on top of it, I just feel like her thing was more like, oh, I cannot be like woman enough to him because he's having all these kids left and right, even though he's not like their father. I can't give that to him.
Yeah.
And then it must be something wrong with me because he's getting all the other women pregnant, So I think that might be like just some sort of natural, depression.
Yeah. I got you. I think, we might disagree on that. I just feel like, the way Atasha and Tyree act on screen, to me, it feels somewhat like, Tyree might be somewhat using this woman, right? Because it looks like she's the only one that really works, even though we saw Tyree like working on cars later in the film. I don't know if Tyree actually has a job, if he's just a freelancer. And meanwhile, he has this, this girl that he's laying up with in her house, eating her food, and she does most of the work, 40 hours a week, working online and stuff like that. I got the impression that maybe, Atasha was hungry for love, and Tyree is good at like projecting fake love to some degree. And maybe he actually does like her, but it's just more of a situation of convenience. Because to be frank, like a lot of dudes, when they get out of prison, especially in America, right, they'll just lay up with anybody. They become basically like homosexuals, or holler at a girl that they used to smash back in the day and be like, hey, can I come stay with you? I'm trying to get back on my feet. I always liked you, shit like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And also, like, their intimacy in the relationship, like, yeah, we see them having sex, but at the same time, like, there's a scene where they're in the car together and Tyrese is jerking off to a porn.
And she's like sitting there like in the passenger seat.
Yeah. And like she's telling the Indian couple, like lesbian couple, like, oh, I can't reach him, I have to like schedule it and blah blah blah. So it's like, bro, like your fiance is jerking off to everybody so much that you have to schedule like your own sexy time. And that's not like romantic at all. And I think every like person needs romance in their life, not even only women.
Right.
So yeah, like just imagine that he has to jerk off like a couple of times a day to give off his sperm, and he's also like jerking off next to you in the car to give off his sperm. Like, I don't know. These things I think will damage your intimacy.
Yeah, I feel like if you have a significant other and you're doing sperm donation, like the most disrespectful thing you could do is like do your donation right in front of her while you're watching porn. Like low key, if I was donating, I would be like, you got to get involved. Like I'm not donating unless you and I do this thing together. And then when I'm about to bust, I put it in the cup. You get what I'm saying? Like I would.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like if he asked her and she said no. Like I don't know if that was the case.
I'm sorry. I'm just imagining that scenario. So he's like, hey babe, I'm about to do a donation. You wanna help me out? And she's like, I ain't feeling it. I'm tired right now. And then he like rolls back his car seat, and he's like, this bitch. Okay.
Yeah, like that's just such an, even though like you might be together for many years, that's still such a very awkward situation. And it's like the way they show the scene, she's just sitting in the car, like not on her phone. She's not outside of the car. She's just like sitting with like a weird look on her face.
And by the way, in this film, there are several scenes when the guys are doing their donations and we don't see what they're watching, but we hear the audio. And I don't know if this was Oppenheim's decision, but like to add the audio, but some of the porn these guys are listening to sounds hella violent, like hella twisted. Like there's one guy later in this film who's watching the film and one of the ladies says, oh my God. I was like, none of my pornography sounds like that, just to be frank. Like,
well, first of all, I'm guessing they have to watch a lot of porn. So they might be like getting bored of the vanilla stuff.
Oh God, that's even worse.
And second of all, I think also like because we're not seeing the video, I think they amped up like the sounds a bit for us to understand like that they're watching porn.
Yo, that's insane. Like who probably watches more porn? Like a regular like horny teenager boy or like a professional sperm donor like Ari Nagel? Like, who do you think competes in like their bandwidth consumption of Pornhub like every month?
I'm gonna say sperm donors because,
Yes,
like, at least teenagers take days off or something. I don't know,
yes, yes,
but
yes, yes.
I think like overall with this couple, I feel like the audience feels the uncomfortableness of attache.
Yeah, generally, especially like there's this scene when, you know, Tyree is like sitting up in the crib while she's like on the computer, probably like on her break from work, and he's playing video games and all he's saying at the screen is like, I got you, ho, shot you, ho, you tried to get me, ho, 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 and stuff like that. Now I understand like, cause I play video games sometimes, like, or I used to play video games, and like you might get turned up while you're playing, but it kind of made Tyree look hella bad, like sort of like this like man boy type of guy. You know what I mean? Not taking life seriously, you know, sitting there playing games. Now I understand he probably, you know, has a gig or he wants to get a real job or something like that, but it made it once again make this relationship look like uneven in the adult part of this. And I'll talk more later about, you know, when Tyree actually gets custody of his kids too. But like,
Yeah.
any comments on like, you know, maybe Tyree not being like mature enough to really be doing what he's doing? You know what I mean?
I felt like in his heart, I don't think Tyree was trying to like hurt, Atasha, but the thing is like I don't think they saw the sperm donations the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I think Atasha took it like way more personally, and then Tyree just seemed like he didn't understand what Atasha was going through. With like him constantly donating his sperm, because it's also like one thing that, for example, if you and me and you wanted to help a lesbian couple and it's like a one-time thing, like that's more understandable, right? But if you're doing it like every day, it's very like, damaging for you as a couple. But for Tyree, it just felt like either like work or charity to those people in a way, or just like helping them, not charity. But for Atasha, it was like deeper, and Tyree just was unable to get to that emotional level.
Right, right. I think, at a certain point, sperm donation that are successful, it just becomes about the ego. And we'll probably talk more about this with Ari, because I think Ari's thing is all about the ego. But I think generally for all of these guys, the idea of having as many kids as possible can be shrouded. It can be covered with the idea like, yeah, I'm just helping people. But, you still are giving a part of yourself, and you're creating a person out there who might not have the connection with their father, which at some point everybody wants to have a connection with their father. Their real biological father, just to even know who he is or see his face or something like that.
Yeah, I was watching like a couple of different documentaries. I even like watched a TED talk about like, this girl who grew up being a sperm donor baby and everything. And also like in the documentary, they show us, the comments or posts from this Facebook page that has like 24K, members.
Yes.
And everyone is like asking questions, looking for donors, and donors posting like, oh, I'm like, I don't know, I just graduated university with a master's degree or something. And, and there was like this question where they asked, okay, like, why aren't you going to the bank, but you're doing it here? And most of them was because it was financially more challenging to go to the bank because it's more expensive. But it also, like, some of them were like, I want the donor to be involved, or not in a father way, but I want the donor to know my kid, and my kid to know the donor.
Or I want to know the donor.
Yeah, because if you go to the sperm bank, everything is like anonymous, right? And from what I understood from the other documentaries I watched, it's basically like only the child can reach the father. If the father gives like, authority to do that after she's 18.
Yeah.
But that's a long time to, go through not knowing your father.
Yeah.
Or your ancestry.
Mini rant time. I'm going to come back to that topic, but mini rants, my only real complaints about this documentary that I really like a lot is that they show a lot of text on screen. right? Because they're like screen capturing all these messages on the Facebook groups, like Akdi mentioned, where people are talking about donors and sperm donation and who the people are and stuff like that. I hate text on screen so much, so much, so much. I hate
Yeah.
that.
I mean, there was a part where the characters were reading their online conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty smart to do
Mm-hmm.
and almost like also funny as well at some points because they would say like heart emoji.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but there is a lot of text on the screen. But what do you think of like that type of, community where, people are doing this for free and not dependent on an organization
Yeah.
that charges
Yeah.
a lot?
Yeah. Once again, I think, I think there's pros and cons to going to the sperm bank or doing it underground like these guys are doing. The sperm bank can screen for communicable diseases or genetic diseases, right? So you can find out if somebody has, cystic fibrosis in their family or autism or alcoholism, whatever, right? Uh, and you can also make sure that person does not have an STD, which is very, very, very important, right? Um, and on the other hand, right, if you're doing it for free and you get to meet the donor and all that sort of stuff, you can sort of build that connection with them. But overall, I think it might be better to go to a sperm bank to have that legal protection, to have that sort of barrier. You know what I mean? That's honestly, if I were to donate sperm, I would probably only do it sperm bank style. I would not be making like Facebook profiles or joining any website, advertising my dick juice. No.
Okay. I mean, I understand the safety part, but at the same time, I thought you were a communist.
Uh-huh.
And, conceiving babies, sperms and eggs, these are what happen in us naturally. And I do feel like a bit of played as humans that, to be able to do that, you have to pay thousands of dollars and then you wouldn't know the father even
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted to and all this sort of things. I think
Right.
it's like way too industrialized in that
Mm-hmm.
sense. And I like that there's like an option for women or couples who really want to do this but don't have the means to it. But I think even though like, something like this should be legal, I think there should still be like some limit to it. But then
Right.
you would still have to organize it in a way.
Right, right. Well, just to reply to the part about me being a commie and my conception of like sperm donation stuff like that, it's very similar to my take on prostitution. Before we legalize prostitution, we have to make a better society in general, right? So I think a lot of the reasons why these people are going through this system right now is because the sperm bank system is so prohibitively expensive, right? And also we live in a society where a lot of gay people, lesbian couples, gay men couples, right? They can't willingly go down to the sperm bank. You sent me a video of like this lesbian couple in Poland that flew out Ari to get them pregnant because in their society it's illegal now for lesbian couples to, willingly get pregnant or adopt kids and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So before then, I think we need to modify the laws to allow gay people to have the freedom to start their families as they want. We should, make healthcare fully free for everybody to do any sort of procedure that they want to their body because medical care should be a human right, right? And having the ability to have kids, as many as you want to have, as well as many as you are capable of taking care of, should be a right as well. So, yeah, the underground economy exists when the main economy doesn't work. That should be like the fundamental thing. That's why this whole documentary can even be made. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. But you're talking about like the future and the ideal, but like right now it's not the case. So I still appreciate something like this that people are willing to help each other. Obviously, there will be people who might do this with bad intentions, right? Or who might not do this with bad intention, but might have a disease and then like carry that on.
Right,
With
but I'm not saying like what the people here are doing is morally wrong or it should be illegal or it's ethically wrong. I don't disagree with that at all. I just think it's bad decisions. There can be bad
yeah,
decisions that are not morally or ethically wrong. You get what I'm saying?
yeah. No, I agree to that.
And speaking of that, right, like one of the big reasons why this sort of type of insemination is wrong is because later in Tyree's story, right, one of the women he got pregnant ended up losing custody of the child. So the child ended up going into state custody. And Tyree ends up like going to court and basically has the child sort of like foisted upon him. He now has to take care of this little girl called Italy, which is spelled very funny. Italeigh. Like that's so ghetto. That's a ghetto ass
That's
name.
the worst pun ever.
That was a ghetto. That's so. I know she had a white mama, but that white woman was hood as fuck. But yeah, so that's one of the things because in the film, you know, Tyree is like, damn, man, I wanted to do this not to have a baby mama. You get what I'm saying? Not to be in this situation. But if you do it through a sperm bank, you don't have them type of problems. But what did you think about that?
About Tyrese's baby, you mean?
Yeah, Tyree being forced to be a father, not just a sperm donor.
Yeah, like obviously I think it's a risk that you take with, giving up your sperm, and obviously he didn't have to take that decision and make it like take the baby and whatever, but like I said, in general, Tyrese and Atasha seem like very nice people.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to go through with it. But I think, I think it was good for them in general because Atasha wanted a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it might not be her biological child, she's taking care of a baby that would possibly call her mom.
Right.
So I think it's like, it was sort of like the destiny's way of like making them a family, maybe.
Yeah, because right before that happens to Tyree in the film, there's this moment where Atasha says, Alexa, play baby making music. You're horny. So there's this like really passionate sex scene, which I did not expect to see in a documentary. It's not graphic or anything, but basically like the next scene is like Atasha announces that she got pregnant, right? And she's very happy about this because up to that point in the documentary, like Atasha was saying, I really want to have this baby with him. But then she loses the baby, right? She has a miscarriage somehow. And while Tyree is out still donating sperm to women, Atasha is on the phone with her mom, basically crying like, why isn't it happening for me? And Atasha's mom is like, she doesn't support that relationship. She feels like Tyree is not on the same wavelength as her. What did you think about, Atasha's miscarriage?
Yeah, I felt very sad. Once again, she's like one of the very caring people I've seen on TV. And like the way that she was happy and she was talking when she was pregnant, that I've never seen her like more happy in any other time in the documentary. And it felt like that's what she really, really wanted and yearned for. But to like have that taken away from her once again, when all the other women Tyrese gives her his sperm to are pregnant, I have to like, you have to think it's very, very harsh. And very like, such a blow on her, like overall well-being, I think. So
yeah, I was really judging Tyree at that moment because, a miscarriage in a relationship can break a relationship. There's people that have literally gotten divorced over a miscarriage, right? And they might have already had kids before. And, while she is like really upset about that, we just see him, meeting up with more women and putting more cum in female condoms and stuff like that. And it felt like he was very callous. And like, once again, my theory about Tyree is like, he just wasn't fully mature enough to grasp everything that was around him. Like, he might have had everything under control, but it didn't seem like as a man he had, everything in order. Does that make sense? Like, not his priorities weren't in order.
yeah, definitely. There are moments where Atasha feels like she is mothering Tyree. Even like with his own daughter, his own kids, I feel like Atasha is much better parent to Tyree's kid than Tyree himself.
Yeah, so that goes to like sort of like the last scene that we see of Tyree. He is like on the beach with Atasha, his real daughter, right? and his new daughter. Well, when I say real daughter, the kid I guess he had before he became a sperm donor, and she's a bit older, and she has like a very good relationship with Atashe. And they're hanging out with Italy, his new daughter that he had through donation that's now in his custody. And, you know, Tyree's older daughter doesn't really want to talk to him. She's very distant. She's acting like a moody teenager. And Tyree's like, hey, come talk to me. Talk to me. What's wrong? Stuff like that. But then it takes Atasha giving like a more gentle touch to have her like open up and talk about her feelings and or what's wrong and stuff like that. And you could sort of tell what's bothering her, from my opinion. But what do you think what was bothering Tyree's daughter? Why she didn't want to talk to her dad?
I thought it was just like sort of his situation with the new daughter. I think there
Mm-hmm.
was some jealousy, like from, you know, the older kid, and
Mm-hmm.
also I guess like just sort of how his father is in general, like his
Mm-hmm.
occupation as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt, well, number one, I don't think it's an occupation because he's not getting paid.
True. I mean, it's such a big part of his life, you know?
It's a big part of his life. You know, he's a humanitarian, right? He's a spreading semen. And, I just remember in those ending scenes when we see him, Natasha, and his daughter, like all trying to have like a family day out together. Like Tyree didn't have any sort of connection really with his kids. Like there's a scene with like Italy is coming up to Atashe and Tyree as they're sitting on the edge of the pool, and Italy goes directly to Atashe, right? And Tyree is just still like sitting on his cell phone, probably like organizing his next donation, whatever he's doing, right?
His
And
porn list, you mean?
huh?
His porn playlist, you
Yes,
mean?
his porn. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna bust a big one to this. But yeah, it's like, you know, it's kind of sad to see, you know, because as a black man, you know, I always felt like, man, black men, if we donate sperm, that shit's just gonna fucking waste away in the back of a fridge somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
I always felt like that. But to see Tyree in this film actually gave me a little bit of hope. Not that being a sperm donor is something that, you know, I want to be, but the fact that, you know, blackness is desirable, and especially to be desirable on a man that looks like Tyree. He's not, you know, Morris Chestnut. He's not Idris Elba. He's like a regular guy. Like he's like a bro, like a regular dude. You get what I'm saying? Kind of chatty, I would say. And, yeah, like the way that he just doesn't seem to grasp the enormous responsibility that it has to be a father, and the blessing that he has to be a father is kind of like disappointing by the end of the film. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, like you said, it is a huge responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it doesn't seem like he's, you know, looking at this with much care, or not, like being a father and also being a sperm donor as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't really take it that seriously. It's like to him, it's like buying some meal and giving it to like someone who's in need. But like
Yeah.
giving your sperm is not like that. You
Yeah.
know, it comes with consequences, and he sort of like, you know, saw them towards the end a
Yeah.
little bit by having to like get custody for this kid,
Mm-hmm.
that he was not expecting to be a father of. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he sort of makes a fun comparison at the beginning when we first see him. He's like, you know, I compare having a baby to like making a cake. You know, they let the cake sit in the oven. All I got to do is just bring the flour. You know what I mean?
Like,
Like,
yeah,
no, dude, no, it's more than that. But go ahead.
yeah, no, exactly. Like his flower could be infested
Yeah.
or something. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it is, because obviously he had healthy kids,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know yet, like the full scale of it.
Yeah. Like and I think we'll talk about more at this end, but I think, you know, we're not realizing like how big of an effect this might have in the future, because this is still a relatively new phenomenon in society. Like, you know, it's generally we've generally understood as humans how to have sex and reproduce, right? Since we first came here, right? But this idea that, you know, women can just choose the men that they want to have them, impregnate them, and be in, you know, other situationships or relationships, and they have a wide variety of men to choose from. I know it sounds like I'm just describing dating, right? Like just regular dating, but I'm talking about like this particular way of having babies and getting pregnant, right? Especially with men who have hundreds of kids out there. Like it's still a relatively new thing, and we don't know how this will play out like in future generations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and also I think in another documentary that was about Ari, there was
Mm-hmm.
like this woman who had an organization with all the other donor babies.
Mm-hmm.
And she said something very interesting, because she said like, oh, okay, like you're bringing this baby to a world, and these people are helping these mothers, but you don't really, at that stage, I don't think these people think that those children will grow up to be individuals.
Yeah, they're
And some
forgetting
of
that
them,
part. They
yeah,
think like babies are just like they'll always be babies.
yeah, like they're not gonna get affected, like we'll tell them when they're 18 or whatever. So it's like there isn't like that full grasp of, okay, these people are going to be adults one day, and some of them might get psychologically affected by this whole thing, and some of them might not. Like depends on what type of family they grow up in, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's going to be shocking for anybody, right? Like when they fully grasp how they got to this world, right? Like even kids who find out that they were adopted, right? And they understand, wow, I'm being raised by people who care about me enough to try to take care of me, but they are not really my biological parents, right? And that
Yeah.
can affect somebody's worldview greatly, you know?
Definitely. I mean, and it's not necessarily even like needing a father in your life, but it's also like knowing your ancestry as well. Because I
Hmm.
think that's something all people are curious when they look at themselves.
Yeah, yeah. But any last comments about Tyree before we get off of him?
No, I just want to say, like, if one day Atasha watches this, girl, I love you. You're the queen. You're like the one of the best people I've seen, really. And it just, to me, she felt like someone just so giving. So I just want to like give a shout out to her
Mm,
for taking care of everyone. And you don't have to do that.
yeah,
Let someone take care of you.
yeah, Atasha, if you're listening to this, leave that bum. You better get you a new nigga. Like, fuck that guy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep it a buck. But yeah, Tyree, like you gotta chill. You gotta chill on doing that, especially if you're doing this for free, right? Like I couldn't imagine just giving my sperm away for free and really, really pursuing it super hardcore. You know what I mean? Like I might give it away for free here or there for people I know, but to say, yeah, any lesbian couple, any single mother out there, anybody, you know, who has a man with a sexual deficiency that needs sperm, yeah, I got it for you. That's a bit much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So moving on. The next person who is a major highlight in this film is Steve. Steve Walker. He's a 65-year-old white guy, tall, really tall, bald white guy who seems to be living alone. Doesn't seem like he was married before or had kids or anything like that. And it seems like when he retired, you know, instead of picking up golf, instead of, you know, learning how to yacht, instead of traveling the world off his pension, he says, I want to slang old dick and old semen to these young broads out here. So yeah, Steve is like, you know, this type of guy who tries to sell himself as somebody who really, really likes to help. We see him walking around the grocery store at the beginning of the doc, and he's like, yeah, sometimes I walk in the aisles and just stake people out. Stake them out and see if they like need help reaching shit on the top shelves. And, yeah, he's been advertising his, sperm donation, online. And, you know, within like the first 3 months, he had like 3 women pregnant and stuff like that. So yeah, his story revolves around mostly this girl named Rachel Stanley, who is a 26 or 27-year-old, white woman who is like, looking for a sperm donor. And she had a lot of medical problems. She has cystic fibrosis, and doctors tell her like there's a chance like she could pass down the that deficiency to her kids. So she's looking for a donor without it. And a lot of this film is about Steve and Ashley's relationship as they sort of bond in his house. So what did you think about, you know, Steve when we first met him?
Yeah. the first thing that pops into my head, and I know I reference this from time to time, but it was like the Erickson stages of life, right? And this guy is 65 years old, and basically in his age, what Erickson says is we're battling with generativity versus stagnation. And it feels like he didn't do much in terms of like family, I guess, during his like earlier years. So it felt like almost he was trying to make it up for it and trying to give something back to the world, like before he gets older and, you know, he dies or whatever, that he leaves some mark in this world. And that's what I thought like his motivation came from, honestly. And also like, I don't know, he just like lacked something more intimate, personal, emotion wise in his life. And he was just sort of trying to make it up for it. And he had almost like a platonic like interest in this girl, Rachel, right? Yeah. And I felt like very uncomfortable as Rachel watching like this dude and their whole like relationships and interactions, because obviously like Rachel is taking his sperm and he is helping her for free, right? So there's some sort of like reciprocation that she has to make. And I felt like he was taking advantage of that and just like making her uncomfortable.
Yeah, like it started off with Steve feeling sorry for her, and then she meets him and she's like, I feel sorry for you, bro.
Yeah, yeah. And then like he was like, okay, like here's my sperm, like you can inject it yourself, but you should have an orgasm in order to make it more effective. If you want, I can help with it. Like that was just weird. And like the way he was sort of setting little dates, I guess, and then not calling them dates was a bit creepy. Like, I don't know, he's like this old dude and it seems like he's somewhat rich because his house looks very nice, right? Like he has a pool and everything, but he's like doing Lyft also. Like it, you know, like it's giving creepy serial killer vibes. Like why are you doing Lyft? Because like that's the amount of emotion you're lacking in your life, I felt.
Yeah, the vibe I get from Steve, and going back to your Erickson's stages of life, I don't know if I'm saying something different or the same as you, but more simpler. I think Steve is just horny and lonely. That's all. Like he's got a very specific sort of kink, which might be, you know, teasing women or playing with the idea that he is like breeding these women to some degree. I think he might have a breeding fetish kink and also be like a lonely older dude who has too much time on his hands and
Wow.
maybe wants to also leave that legacy in the world, possibly.
Yeah.
Because like you said, he looks rich. He's probably accumulated a lot of wealth in his life, and he's like, wealth does not make me happy. I have to do something more, you know?
Yeah, I think he's emotionally horny. I don't even think he's physically that horny.
That's
Because
a good
let's be
way of
honest,
describing
like,
it, yes.
yeah, like he's like 65. Like I think, you know, he's not a bad looking guy and I'm sure he had his fair share of sexual relationships in the past, but not a relationship at his core maybe, you know? Because he was talking about his ex-wife or I'm not sure if I got that part, but he said, you know, sometimes I imagine what I would say to my would-be ex-wife. So it seems like he doesn't even have a ex-wife. And
Yeah.
then like he's imagining how he would fight with her.
Yeah.
That's like super lonely shit.
Yeah, with a lot of these guys, especially with Steve, like you sort of have to read it between the lines with what they say and also like the ways that they want to, you know, help women get pregnant. Like when we're talking about Tyree, he does only AI, you know, but Steve offers to do NI and AI too. So anybody that's offering to do NI, I'm automatically going to think like you're a bit horny too. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I would agree. Like,
Yeah.
why would you want to do that? Like, why would you want to be the one who decides to do that?
Right. Or offer to do that, right? Because if it's really about helping women have kids, NI should never be on the table, right? Because it's not any more effective than you putting it in the female condom and they insert it in themselves, right?
Yeah. I mean, I also sort of imagine maybe some people especially older people, not like Steve, but other people might have like, oh, like it should be the natural way, like those sort of conspiracy theorists, you know. I felt like maybe that's why some people might do it, but I would say 90% is because they're horny and want some sex.
Yeah, I could imagine Steve is that older guy who's like, if I have sex with you from the back, you're more likely to have a boy. Or if you get on top, you're more likely to have a girl. So how you want to do it? Like he's probably, I could imagine him thinking that way.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, like overall he was just like too creepy for me. And what did you think about the girl though?
So when it comes to like Ashley, like I feel like she didn't want to admit that she probably liked Steve to some degree for what he represented. Maybe she had like a older man fetish, a daddy fetish, you know, that sort of stuff. But she didn't want to admit that, you know. And there is that scene when Ashley is like sitting down with like her girlfriend and saying like, you know, at this point, I don't want to just say like, you know, I lied and have a boyfriend, or I don't want to, or I got another donor or something like that. But I'm like, girl, you literally can. Like, you shouldn't be this connected with this man. And the fact that she didn't want to lie to Steve showed that like she had some sort of feelings or affection for him, for how he treated her. What do you think?
I don't agree with that. First of all, like, yeah, of course, every woman wants love and every human likes being loved. So I think
Hmm.
it did rub her ego a little bit to, you know, have Steve want her, maybe romantically. But I think she was too busy with her, like, first of all, her medical condition and then trying to be a mom as well. And at the same time, I think she didn't want to, like, you know, leave Steve out of the child's life. And if
I
this
think
is
she knows that
someone,
Steve. I think she knows Steve is going to leave the child's life because he's 65. He's got a good what, maybe 20 years left.
he's still like 20 years is like your whole childhood, Simon. And second, like if that's the case, like if she would want like her child, let's say if she conceived, to know Steve, like you cannot, you know, build that sort of not co-parenting, but you cannot build that sort of like relationship in the long term, like just lying to that person, because we see like other sperm donors being in the family's life and being like friends.
Hmm.
But because Steve has this romantic like interest in Rachel,
Hmm.
it's like, you know, she cannot really do that because she just wants to be like friends with this person and have a peaceful relationship, but she's sort of like forced into that.
I'm saying like when we first meet Ashley, right? Ashley and Steve are about to meet up for coffee and cake for some sort of date, right? And Ashley tries to like back out of the date. She says, can I take a rain check? But then she comes anyway. Then she starts coming over to the house. Then they start Netflixing and chilling. Then they start walking on the tarp on top of the pool. Then they start swimming in the pool together. They start doing all these things together, but she never gets pregnant. His sperm doesn't work for her. So if it's really about you really want a baby, why are you continuing to work with this guy whose sperm just is not clicking with your egg? You get what I'm saying? And you shouldn't care about this guy from Adam. He should just be another guy, right? It's more about the baby. So that's why I'm saying, like, for me, Ashley feels like she's more attached than she wants to admit.
Yeah, I think she is attached, but I don't think hers is romantic at all. I think at first, I think it was her being nice, but then, you know, she just actually enjoyed his company, but not in a romantic way. And they do have a
Hmm.
conversation and, you know, Steve suggests, why don't you try someone else? Cause obviously it's
Right.
not working with me. And Rachel says like, okay, like, I don't think that's really true. I think that's just a coincidence. And
Hmm.
I don't really believe in that. So yeah.
I I could understand like maybe she's not romantically attached, but the way she's acting towards him shows that it's more than just a friendship. You get what I'm saying? It shouldn't be that you're hanging around this man who's twice your age at some house in the cabin in the woods if you really just care about the baby. That's the point I'm trying to make. Maybe she didn't love him. Maybe she didn't want him to be her boyfriend or sugar daddy or whatever. But it's more than just a friendship because they literally have nothing else in common. Like
They're trying to have a baby together. What do you mean?
They should. Did we see anybody else hang out with the sperm donors as much as we saw Ashley and Steven?
I mean, we saw like, for example, what's his name, Tyree, going and seeing like some of the kids from time to time if the parents wanted that.
Hmm.
So yeah, like we saw a relationship between like those people.
Yeah, but that's between the kids, and that's done for the benefit of the kids. But for the adults, there shouldn't be a reason to be hanging out with your sperm donor unless that sperm donor is somebody you have a romantic tie to some degree.
Yeah, well, the goal is to have the kid, and once the kid arrives, they would still be friends, or there would still be some sort of, relationship between Rachel and Steve.
Right. Well, it's about showing face. I would say it's showing face more for the kid, and you should have a cordial relationship with the parent of that kid. But in this case of Steve and Ashley, they don't even have a kid yet. So why are they doing all this together? There shouldn't be hanging out, movie, Netflixing, and chilling time. That's not helping her ovulate. That's not helping his sperm get stronger.
Well, I don't know. And also like I guess we're like talking about every couple like till the end, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like at the end, basically they tell Rachel that, her health is not going very good. So they
Hmm.
tell her like, yeah, if you do give birth, there's like a very great possibility that you can die.
Hmm.
And I don't know like what she decided, but it feels like she decided not to maybe go through with it, or she's still contemplating about it. Cause at the beginning, she was contemplating, okay, like what if I give birth and then this child dies? I mean, and then I die, sorry. What is going to happen to the child? I don't know if I have someone to leave it to. And
Hmm.
also at the end, she was saying like, I want somebody to go through this with me and hold my hand if I'm going to die.
Right. And I think that asks a bigger question. Is it unethical to have a kid knowing that you might die of like a terminal disease? And also, is it unethical for somebody to try to have kids if you're a very older man? Because being an older man, your sperm starts to deteriorate. Like, they say if a man is over like 45 years old and he tries to have a kid, there's a higher chance of that kid having autism because of, your sperm not being as strong as it was in the past, right? So I don't know. Are they both really trying to do something that's extremely unethical in this case? Because I'm leaning towards yes. Like when I first saw Steve, I'm like, bro, if you don't get your ass out on the golf course instead of trying to get these young hoes pregnant, what's wrong with you?
I mean, I did know that statistic about older men. If that's true, you can't really know that. And I guess you can get tested early on in your pregnancy to see if, there is possibility of autism. Or like what is the percentage or whatever. And then according to that, you can choose to have an abortion.
Well,
And
well, actually, that's a bit much. Like, oh, I found out my baby might have autism now. Like, you could go through like pre-screening tests, I guess,
yeah,
instead of
my
not trying to
mom
get
did
pregnant
that,
in the first place.
Simon. It's not something like, unusual. She
Hmm.
didn't want to bring, a child that would struggle in the world. So then, like, she decided to get an abortion, and she was obviously
Really, I
like
didn't know
younger.
that.
Yeah, and yeah, like some woman would do that, and honestly, I might do that if something like that comes up. But it also depends on the disability as well. Anyway,
Hmm.
that's not the point.
Hmm.
uh,
But about Ashley, like Ashley knows she could die in 5 years, and she's trying to have a baby. Is that unethical?
I
Is
think
that immoral?
I think it's a bit unethical, I would say. Because like if I was in her situation and I really wanted to be a mom, I think I would try to adopt a kid, and then like a kid that's not too little, you know, and then maybe like leave everything I have to that kid if I die.
Hmm.
And in that way, like I wouldn't have to risk my life of like giving birth and dying. Because if the end goal is being a mom, you can do that through adoption as well without killing yourself.
Yeah, but that's insane. Both situations are insane, right? Like I'm about to die in 5 years. Let me adopt a baby,
Well,
right?
she
Like,
doesn't necessarily know if she's gonna die in 5 years, but what the doctors are saying is that if she gives birth, she's gonna probably die.
Right, which is, I feel like, I'm just thinking about like this DMX song, like, what would you do with your last days on earth? And Ashley would start rapping a verse talking about, I want to have a baby. Like, that's crazy.
That is. I mean, adoption is also like selfish and maybe unethical as well, but I just feel like it's better than inseminating yourself.
mm, both. Like, with, when you have terminal diseases, I really think those are the few people on earth who can be selfish and nobody can judge them. Like,
Wow.
if you don't give a fuck about nobody else because you got like breast cancer and it's like eating away at your soul, like you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like you can spit in people's faces. You could like steal from Macy's. You could do whatever, like with terminal diseases.
Okay, I don't know if that's what they want to do, but I don't know. I just feel like because also to go through adoption, you have to find someone who would take care of that child in case of your death.
Hmm.
So I feel like if she goes through that, at least she would have to find someone.
Right, right. Now, do you think like because Steve never got Ashley pregnant, it was because of her ailments or because of Steve? Like, do you think, they should have put Steve's sperm under a microscope like how Tyree did in his house, talking about, ooh, I got strong swimmers.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe like Steve said, it wasn't like a biological match.
Hmm.
Sometimes that could happen.
Yeah.
Before we got married in Turkey, they tested us
Yeah.
for that because that is something that happened. So maybe it was just that.
Hmm.
I don't know. Or maybe it was her condition, or maybe it was Steve's swimmers weren't strong enough, or maybe it was the collection of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I say in this film, like this might be a bit off for Steve or Ashley, but this film makes pregnancy look a little bit like a body horror film because throughout the film, a lot of the women are like opining, they're pining for babies, like they want to be pregnant, they want to have children, and it's a bit strange because like when I think about pregnancy, especially the way it's shot, like there's close-ups of like sperm penetrating the egg, women's bellies getting swollen. They don't show labor, but we all know that exists, right? And I'm like, pregnancy is sort of like a very terrifying thing. Like from the whole beginning to the end of the act, we just watched Alien Romulus and that woman like had like an alien baby and even the alien baby was like, feed me, mommy. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's a bit, I don't know. Did this film sort of make pregnancy and the whole shebang like look kind of like scary? Because that's what I was getting from it. I feel like Oppenheim was going for light horror in this thing.
I mean, the only part that was like a light horror for me was that pregnancy or getting pregnant and having a child was sort of reflected like an indulgence.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I believe, yes, every woman has the right to have kids and be a mom, just like every man has the right to be a dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think it's a decision that should be taken lightly, as in like, oh yeah, like I just need someone's sperm and then I'll be fine. Because as
Yeah.
we saw, like, for example, with Tyree, like one of the kids that, he inseminated in someone,
Mm-hmm.
got into like the system, got into like
Yeah.
childcare services. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
like the horror that I got from here.
Yeah. It's the type of horror where it's like, damn, people are really like meeting up in abandoned Macy's parking lots to exchange sperm with strangers.
Yeah,
Like
like,
that's
and then like posting, Facebook pictures with their legs up and saying like baby dust on the way. Like,
wow. It's like, I don't know. I think that's a women problem. Like you, Akdi, and all the women, y'all gotta stop like making y'all gotta stop making babies seem like accessories. Like we just got new babies on the way. New babies just dropped. Like, no, it's not like a Shein haul. It's not a fucking, you get what I'm saying?
yeah, at times it felt like that in the movie, but of course, understanding that maybe like at that time they were acting like that, but obviously, of course, I would think that when the baby comes into the world, they would be taking it more seriously.
Yeah, and I think all the mothers generally took it seriously, but the way they talked about the act, right? Like it made it seem like, they were just trying to flex.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, getting a Birkin bag.
Yeah, yeah. And the way that they were posting too, it's like, we need a donor in Las Vegas tonight. I'm like, bro, if you're getting a donor, like, I think there should be like at least a month of vetting, right? Like going through the process. Like people were posting up, donor needed tonight. Like at that point, both of y'all are like doing this for like sexual gratification. Because only
Yeah.
person that posts something related to like nut and vagina like tonight is the extremely horny.
Yeah. And also like some of the posts, like I understand maybe if you want to match your race to the baby, like I understand that because you want it to seem as natural as it can be, I guess. But then they were also like, there was like one post that was like, we need 100% Albanian who's a dentist
No, no,
graduate.
no. That was a donor. The donor, he posted up and he said, I'm 100% Albanian dentist.
Oh,
And I'm like, you are going to get rejected just for that first word alone.
wow. Okay, okay, I got it. I thought that was a couple who wanted that.
No, no, nobody would want that sperm. What are you talking
Wow.
about? But no, I was going to ask you that. Do you think it's racist for somebody to, want sperm donations from somebody of the same race, quote unquote?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay.
Because for the most part, I would say parents get happy when their kids look like them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're having a, child that is not from you or like not from one parent, especially, maybe you would want as most similarity as possible. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If you, like, if you're let's say two black, girls, lesbian couple, they want to have kid, like, should they go for a white sperm donor or a black sperm donor? Like,
Well, DeBrat did. I don't know if you know who DeBrat is.
no. What?
The Brat was a famous female rapper, and she recently came out as lesbian, and she had a baby with and she has a black lesbian partner, but she had a baby with a white man. It was probably Ari too. Now that I think about it,
Yeah.
they didn't release the identity, but I'm assuming looking at it, it's probably Ari.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's problematic. But
Hmm.
I do think also like for, let's say if it was a white lesbian couple and they wanted a baby from a black man, I don't think that's
Hmm.
problematic, but I just feel like naturally people are inclined to choose their own.
I'm just worried about that baby's hair raised by two white
Well,
lesbians.
I mean, she would still be like half white, or the baby would still be half white.
Imagine those two lesbians taking that black baby to like a black barbershop, black hairdresser. They're
Wow.
just terrified out of their minds. They don't know what to do. They're getting like overcharged.
I'm sure they can handle it some way if they want to. They can overcome anything.
They can overcome anything, right? But no, watching the doc, I'm pretty sure on those forums, there's probably a lot of posts that are hella race specific, which probably freaks me out or would freak me out. But I was glad to see like the one black man in this film, Tyree, who was donating his sperm a lot, sort of had women from all different backgrounds. In fact, it looked like mostly like white women were picking up his sperm and like Native American women and different stuff like that. And meanwhile, it's the reverse for like Ari. Ari had nothing but black women chasing him down, trying to get his sperm and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
think the film is kind of like saying like everybody wants mixed babies, but nobody wants to admit it. That's how
Yeah.
it looked in the film. It looked like it.
A little bit. I think it did. And I don't know, but it could also be like, I don't know, why would you want, if you're a black woman, why would you want a white Jewish man's baby?
I don't know, because Ari's kind of cute. Let's keep it a buck. Ari's a handsome man. Just on paper, before he opens his mouth and you realize this man is fucking insane. He's charming, he's funny, he's handsome. Is he not? No?
Yeah, I mean, for me, his humor is cringe and creepy.
Uh-huh.
But I can see if some people might find him like fun or, whatever.
Right. I mean, on paper, that when I think about like before watching this film, when I thought about like sperm donors with like 100 kids, I didn't think about Tyree. I thought about Ari because that's what I thought. Like, most women go into the sperm bank looking for. All right, I want a guy who's like 6'4", no body fat. He's a genius, and Ari is like a math teacher or something like that. Big blue eyes and like perfect teeth, and that's like Ari to the T. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Like, I get why a woman would choose him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would assume, if I saw Tyree, I would assume, like, he might have some, like, obesity gene or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah.
But this film, like I said, it like turns a lot of things on its head. So I'm glad that I watched it. And I think now is a good time to talk about the star of this show, which is Ari.
Oh my god.
And before we get into Ari, who is probably the wildest sperm donor that we could ever imagine, I just want to read what made me want to watch this documentary, and it's from his Wikipedia page, and I'll be brief. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so Ari is sometimes called the target donor because some of his artificial donations were performed in public restrooms, leading to the nickname target donor after it was reported that some donations were made in Target department stores. In 2017, Ari deposited sperm with 6 different sperm banks in Israel. In 2018, Israeli authorities banned him from donating sperm. His appeal against the decision was rejected by the Supreme Court of Israel. The court ruled that it was doubtful he, Ari, can function as an actual father due to the number of his children. So in 2020, Ari borrowed his brother's passport to donate to an Israeli woman. Did you get that story?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane. The Supreme Court of Israel had to come in and say, Ari, stop. And Ari snuck into the country like a fucking terrorist to get another woman pregnant. Like, what is
That's
that? Like,
addiction.
Hamas can't even be that bold.
That's an incurable addiction.
Yes, yes. And I think Ari, like, all right, so yeah, basically there's this guy, his name is Ari, he's like a math teacher, and he has like over 130 kids when they cut the camera onto him when they start talking to him. And Ari says, yeah, I have 138 or something, and in about 2 months I'm gonna have like 12 more because one woman is pregnant with twins, and I got like 7 other women pregnant and stuff like that. And Ari is basically bouncing around the whole country, living out his suitcase, and sometimes meeting up with his kids, but basically jerking off in bathrooms and meeting up with women, flying out of the country to meet up with women, getting married to women. Like there was a lesbian woman in Singapore. He got pregnant, and they wouldn't let her have the baby, so he said, "Yeah, I'll marry you in Uganda." So he flew to Uganda with this woman he got pregnant in Singapore so she could have relations with the baby. And he's married to many different women across the world so that they can have, relationships with their kids because, a lot of countries don't allow lesbians to have relations. He's also helping the kids that he gets pregnant abroad get U.S. citizenship. And I know my guy Avery is in here, so I know he would be pissed off to hear that Ari was like flying to Mexico, nutting in all the mamacitas so that they can get instant U.S. passports. Like Ari is insane. Like he is on another level of terrorism and just destruction of uteruses across the world. But what did you think about anything about this lunatic, Akdi?
Oh, wow. He has just so much to talk about because he's insane. And I just want to add like a couple of more information about him. He is like a math teacher, but he's also like a nomad. So he basically travels around all the houses of like his kids, and he doesn't own a house or have a place of his own. And he's basically just like traveling and staying at this house 1 week and then that house 1 week, seeing his children constantly. And that's an insane lifestyle. And also, like, in another documentary I watched about him, he's walking in New York in Times Square, and he's basically describing every place's bathroom. But yeah, that's Carnegie Hall. Like, I did it there. They have great bathrooms. And this dude is basically like a insemination machine. And yeah, he's insane. And the fact that's like, what you read about like the whole thing with Israel and him like basically fleeing there to get people more pregnant.
Even though it's against the law. Like, what the fuck, my
He's
guy?
just like, I think like on a scale, they were showing like, oh, the good guy, which is like Tyree. And then they have like a bit worse, which was like Steve. And then they have like the insane monster sperm donor, which is like Ari, basically.
He is a monster. He is a fucking terrorist. He is insane. Now, Ari is Jewish, right? And my theory about Ari might be a bit extreme, but I have a theory that Ari is a top shelf, top secret IDF mission to get as many women with Israeli blood in them so that their children can come out and never be against the Israeli state. This is my theory. I have a theory. There's no way one man has this much power or this much cum in him. So he is he has been trained since birth to be sent on this mission by the IDF to prevent the next Hitler, the next Goebbels from rising up anywhere in the world because they can't say, I hate these Jews, but damn it, my father Ari put me in check. You get what I'm saying? That's my theory about Ari.
That if that is true, first of all, that's an insane like way of taking over the world. Like what the fuck,
Yo.
Israel? And like I'm pretty sure that like this person has an ambassador in every country. Like there's a Turkish, person who's half Jewish, half Turkish, and has like, Ari as her father.
Yes, Ari is flowing through everybody's bloodstream now. He is making sure that the tribe survives. The tribe will always live on now.
And it's basically like this guy created himself like a foolproof way of living without having a job, really. Cause it's like, I know he has a job and he probably like teaches online now because they talk about like, even the COVID didn't stop him. So like,
Even COVID, think about how insane that was. Like, I was getting women pregnant during the pandemic, my guy. You can't stop me.
no, they said like, even the COVID didn't stop him. And then they pan to Ari and Ari saying like, yeah, it's easier for me to travel because now I can work online. Like,
Yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst side effect of COVID. Like more Aries running around Uganda.
yeah, like he doesn't pay rent. And from what I heard from the other documentary that basically all he asks is that they pay for his travel expenses. And it's like,
Yeah,
since he have 150 kids or whatever, like they only
yeah,
see him like once every a year and a half. So like
yes.
basically the moms pay for the travel expenses once a year. He
Hmm.
probably has free food every time like he gets there.
Yeah.
So it's like, this guy doesn't have any expenses.
Yo, he is the ultimate homosexual. Like he took homosexualism to another level. Right? Like this is extreme. I
Yeah.
want to ask you your favorite Ari moment, so I want you to think about it. But my favorite moment in this film, Ari has a choice between going to, I believe, Hungary to impregnate another woman who's in a lesbian relationship, but it's during the last week of Passover, and his mother has like a terminal disease. So Ari is like at a crossroads. Like, what should I do? Spend time with my mother who might die by this time next year, or fly off to Hungary real quick to get more women pregnant in a country that does not need more of this sort of fuckery going on. And the Ari literally ends up choosing to spend time with his mother, but the whole time he's like sitting by the poolside, pissed as fuck. He is like insanely pissed that he has to spend time with his mom instead of getting women pregnant. And he's talking to his mom, and his mom is like, no, Ari says to his mom, I wish I could join everything together, my kids and my family as well. And his mother is like, you don't know, Ari. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with your lifestyle. Like, like the way his mother just like put him in check and is like, mm-mm-mm. Like that was an old black mother in the body of an old Jewish woman. Like, Ari. None of that. None of that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I love like how unapologetically rude his mom is to him because like
Hmm.
he deserves it. Like if his mom's approves of this, then who's gonna stop him?
Yeah.
And this guy's like constantly saying, I'm gonna retire, but it's gonna be like a slow retiring moment. You know, if anyone wants a second kid, I'm gonna give it to them.
Ari says he's going to retire the same way I say I'm going to quit smoking.
Yeah,
Like
like
today,
gradually.
like today is the last day. I swear, just one more woman pregnant. I swear, God.
Yeah. And it seems like we see Ari going to like different families, right? Different women's house where like he has his kids. And at times, honestly, it looks very stressful. Like he goes into the houses and yeah, like the kids love him and whatnot, but it's also like, you know, you have to, it's basically also a little bit like you have your concubines, but you
Yeah.
don't have sex with them at all.
Yeah.
And,
I imagine he probably still has sex with some of them. I think he does.
yeah,
I,
I would assume so as well.
but that's actually the one thing I do admire about Ari because he's there for the good and bad. Like he shows up at this one Jersey girl's house, like this woman with the thickest Jersey accent I've ever heard. And boy, is that the most unattractive English accent. It's probably up there equally as bad as like a Baltimore girl accent. Like those are the worst accents. A New York accent for a girl is bad. Jersey accent is bad. And that Baltimore accent is really bad. But he's hanging out with this like Jersey girl and like her kid is bad as fuck. He cannot stop like reaching for like cat poop in the litter and like eating it or whatever he's doing, right? And Ari has to be there and be like, oh, that's stop doing that. Like he has to really try to be a dad at those moments too. And he's like changing diapers in another scene when we first meet him as well.
Yeah.
So he's there for like the good and bad. And I appreciate that about him. But what did you
Yeah.
think?
I mean, he also wrote an ChatGPT sorry letter to one of his kids because he couldn't make it for his birthday. So like, you know, my dude, like, why did you take all this responsibility if you can't handle it? I mean, yes, we see like all these cozy moments, but he probably sees these kids once a year, you know, so it's not like really that cozy. And it's like
Yeah.
he's basically like Santa, you know, he comes once a year, brings gifts and joy, and then goes back.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
there's this really sad scene like towards the end of the film when he like takes a kid to a black barbershop and Ari is there like getting a fade and a taper and a lineup. Which was funny by itself. But he like waves bye to like his little Drake baby out the window and then disappears. And then we see like little Blake Griffin like look really pissed off and sad that his dad just left like that.
yeah. And so like, I don't know if I can say I congratulate him for being in children's lives because that's not really being in your children's life. Like, even his mom said it, like, if you have a kid, you have to be there like all the time through like every bad shitty day. And there are a lot of those days.
Yeah.
It's not always like, you know, butterflies and rainbows and you see them once at a birthday party and everyone's happy.
Yeah, but it's more than most, and it's more than what he even has to do. Because Ari could have easily set it up where he's like, "I just donate and I don't care." Like he didn't have to do that. You know what
Or
I mean?
he could have not had like 150 children. That
Right.
too.
That's the big problem with Ari. Like his problem is like the IDF just doesn't know when to stop. So it's like right now they're invading Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. Like they're sending Ari on a mission that should be a mission for like 10 soldiers, but they just got one guy on the job. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, nobody's crazy enough to agree.
Yeah, like Mossad does not have enough like cum dumpsters. Like they do not have enough like guys who can bust them nuts.
Ew. But yeah, my favorite Ari moment is like, I guess it's like a bit towards the end, but he basically like throw this party. I don't know if it's his birthday party or whatever, but like most of his kids are there who could come, and he's like playing with his kids and whatnot. But then like he gets a call or a message saying that someone needs sperm. And then like he tells his little daughter like, wait a second, I have to pee. And then he goes into the bathroom and like jerks off and like basically donates his sperm. And then an hour later, another girl comes that, you know, she says that they texted and they agreed that he would give his sperm to her tonight. But then Ari is like, well, can you give me like a couple of hours to like rejuvenate my nuts? And they basically like have a fight and this girl has like an attitude towards him. Like she's saying like, you know, I need it like as quick as possible, as much as possible. and he's trying to like convince this girl that, you know, he's not ready to come again in the
See,
birthday party.
see, those are those type of moments that you have in life where you're like, what have I gotten myself into? I'm at a birthday party with 47 of my kids, and I have a woman right here rolling her neck and snapping at me because she can't get pregnant right now. Like, what if, like that's, if you just press pause on your life, like Bruce Almighty, and just say, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, like that was insane. Like the setting was insane, and the girl was insane. Yeah, that was my favorite because he was also like, I don't know, he has like this jokester personality.
Yes.
So I can't take him seriously. And yeah, like his policy is like, there's no turnbacks, like there's no turn downs.
I really like that scene too because at the end there's this really funny montage that's going on where Ari's best friend, who is I think the second like star of this show besides Atasha, like Ari's best friend who's like this tough smoking, like chain smoking, rough-necked, like really gritty Jew who's like, Ari, I want to tell you, buddy, you're a better damn father than I could ever be. And Ari, don't you ever stop donating sperm. And then he like drops the mic at this like Chuck E. Cheese and walks off stage all like gallantly. And meanwhile, we see like clips of Ari looking like stressed out, depressed, eyes popping out of his head because like the cum is just like sort of like eking out of his pores at this point. You get what I'm saying?
Wow.
And like, I really like that scene because that showed like the madness that was Ari's life. Like Ari's life is like the pinnacle of surreal horror. You know what I mean? I just can't stop coming. Like I just can't stop coming. Like that is a horror movie.
Yeah, it's like, it's not even coming. Like he just can't stop impregnating people. It's like, and
No.
even they talk about it in the documentary, like two of the girls, I don't know if they were mothers that he impregnated, but basically like they say, we think this is an addiction. Like
Mm-hmm.
you are addicted. And he's like, how
Yes.
is a good thing can be addiction? So it's
And
like,
she's like, it's when you can't stop. And it's also when you have garnishments on your payments and you are on child support. So can I talk about my second favorite Ari
go
moment?
ahead.
Oh my God, this scene was chef's kiss. Fabulous. So they go to Ari in the classroom, like teaching kids math, which number one, what high school in America is allowing Ari to stand in front of students? Kids who are past puberty should not be around Ari because he cannot be trusted.
Yeah, for
No,
sure.
that is dangerous. Like
Ye-
if I found out Ari was my kid's teacher, I'm fighting him and burning the school down.
Yeah, you know, like a little young lesbian couple is gonna hire him.
Yes, yes. Like, like he can smell teenagers ovulating, like in the hallway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this, anyway, Ari is standing in front of this classroom of like half interested kids who are like learning about binomial numbers or whatever, right? And so he's talking about probabilities and chances and like the kids are like on their cell phones or like scrolling through TikTok or whatever until Ari starts talking about, yeah, so 30% of my wages are garnished because my baby mamas are taking me, you know, like, taking my wages and they got me on child support and stuff like that. So how much money is taken out if you cross the two and carry the one in here? And it's like, the kids are like, $32,000. And he's like, damn right, $32,000, damn near above the poverty line. I'm like, yo, that's how you know it's an addiction and it's irresponsible. When you donating sperm has gotten you $32,000 in the hole. You get what I'm saying? And like the kids are now like wide awake and looking in pure shock and horror at what this man's life has become and how this adult can be considered responsible enough to be their teacher and stand in front of them. That was fabulous. It's probably the scene of the entire film.
I mean, if Ari was my teacher, I could not take him seriously, first of all. Like, you know, I'm going to be asking questions about him.
Yes. Like, how'd you have time to grade my test? Don't you have like 30 birthdays today?
I know, right? And like, at the same time, I just feel like he's very delusional. Like he's
Yes.
living in this world where he thinks he's helping people. Like on top of all of his kids, he also has like staged marriages with women who wants to like come to America.
That's insane.
Like, you know, he's not like I think he sees himself as like some angel who's helping everyone. like literally everyone. And yeah, but that's not the reality. It's like he's even more irresponsible from, like, if you compare him to like anyone else in this documentary.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and just the fact he's broke, like living this sort of lifestyle, he could easily turn this like into like a TV show or a book deal or something like that. But on top of giving away his sperm for free, it seems he likes to also be in the limelight for free. Because I'm pretty sure these documentaries and all this stuff that's been out there on him, they didn't have to pay him a dime. They just like put a camera in front of this like rambling, semi-coked out Jew's mind, and he just starts going off about all his kids. Like, like the way he's living his life is not full potential.
Yeah, he's reminding me of, like, I didn't see the movie, but Borat.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
what he looks like a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also do have to mention, like, I really like the ending of the documentary. Like,
Break it down for us.
basically, like, at the very last scene, we sort of see, like, what is going on with everyone's life at last. And we see, like, the Ari's barber scene, right? Where he says bye to his Drake son. And then basically we get, like, the credits of everyone who's, like, the, you know, who has a big character in the documentary, but we see them in alone and in, like, sort of sentimental way with their emotions in a way. For example, we see Steve just like being in his pool alone, and then they show Rachel and they show her from a point of view where Steve was watching Rachel in his pool. And then we go back to Rachel in her room right now where she's like seeing all these birds passing by, and the birds are carrying babies, like the storks.
Really? Were they carrying babies?
Yeah, they were carrying something in their, like, you know, mouths. And, you know, I thought it was like very sort of touching to get those like very emotional shots of it.
Yeah, that makes it full circle because there was like a scene earlier where Ari was talking to one of his kids or one of the kids of the woman he was inseminating, and she's like, "My mommy told me babies come in a stork." And Ari's like, "If a stork makes babies, then why am I here?" And and this little girl is like, kind of like, "Mommy, you lied to me. You let this monster in my house, and he impregnated you." But yeah, now that you brought up that the storks at the end that Ashley saw were carrying babies, that makes this film even more poetic.
Yeah, yeah. And as of like Tyree and Atasha, we sort of just see them like in this big parking lot carrying what is that called?
Crates of semen. No, crates of semen.
Wow. A baby bed, right? And yeah, and I don't know what they're referring to exactly. I don't know if it's for the kid that they got from the system or if it's something else, because Atasha says something like, "Isn't it too early?" And then Tyree says like, "That's like why you should have it. We have fire extinguishers in the house just in case." So I'm like thinking they're gonna try to make baby again.
Really?
I don't know. That's what I thought, because why would they say that?
I thought they were trying to burn the house down and leave no evidence.
Wow.
I don't know. I didn't catch all of that at the ending, but it is an emotional ending and it is shot very, very artistically. I was caught up in like the coloring and everything, and just the cinematography of it all. Beautiful documentary, probably one of the most beautiful films we've seen this year. Just goddamn, why is the story so ugly?
Well, I mean, maybe that's like the beauty of it. It's like, it's such a weird story and something that you don't think about, that you don't expect, especially like people like Ari. But even that, it's like sort of told in a nice way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, any other comments?
Yeah. Keep people like Ari away from humanity.
Well, I guess we should talk about like what should be the maximum number. And I guess I wanted to say this because I was thinking about this like before we turned this on and you sent me that documentary. This is one of those problems in society now that we literally cannot stop. And it's one of those things like it's one of the negative byproducts of having a gay relationship, I would say, that could exist, right? And it just sort of has to be there. Like if you're in a homosexual relationship, unfortunately, biologically, you two can't produce your own children. So you'll either have to adopt or go through, artificial insemination, right? Or something like that. And, yeah, like there's no way to really guarantee that people will be responsible with who they're getting their sperm to, if they'll be responsible after the baby is born. It's just sort of out there. I don't think we should start locking up people that donate and give 100 people kids. I don't think that should be the case. But yeah, I generally think we should make it, people shouldn't do this more than like 10 times, right? Like, I don't think anybody needs more than 10 kids out there in the world, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, in that documentary, they were talking about Australia, and in Australia, this is the law. Like, you cannot have, if you're a sperm donor, you cannot donate more than 10 sperms, basically. Like, you cannot donate more than 10 babies.
Right.
But yeah. And I think that's a good number because also, like, I watched and read some stories of, like, sperm donor babies. And basically what they're saying is, like, yeah, we are now adults and we kind of want to know, like, what is our families that are blood related. Not that, like, we need a dad in our lives, but most of them want to know their siblings as well. And that's what they usually find also. So yeah, like, if you have, like, Ari, 150, like, siblings, that's an insane amount, and you're never gonna be, like, possibly, like, a family in that sense.
Right.
So if you have, like, 10 kids, that could still have, you could still have connections with those 10 others and your dad, and it's, like, a more manageable situation. And
Right,
of course, less chance of, spreading disease and things like that.
Right. And speaking of that, like, I think it's a good point to mention. It might be a bit off topic, but they showed one of Ari's kids, and he had like a physical and it looks like also mental developmental issues, sort of like a D-Man from Tell Them You Love Me, right?
Yeah.
And this doesn't always, like, artificial insemination doesn't always go well. Like, you might get a kid who has those physical or mental disabilities, right? So, that should also be considered. Like, you don't want to spread your seed so much out there that you might also be spreading diseases that you didn't know you had because you're doing it underground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they don't say if that was his kid, but we are guessing that it was because
I would
he says,
assume
like,
so.
Oh, daddy is here to both of them. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's, for me, it's like, I appreciate that people are there to help, other people who don't have the means and want to start families. But at the same time, I understand the danger of it.
Yeah.
I'll put it like that. And that's, like, my final thought on it.
Yeah. I want to change my number from 10 to maybe 20. I think 20 is a good number because I think you can honestly build a bond with like 20 people. You could build a solid.
That's like a football team.
Yeah, and people on the football team love each other. Love you, bro.
Wow. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think 20 is a good number, honestly. You can learn 20 names. You can learn 20 phone numbers. 20 is a good amount.
Do you think Ari has a list of all the kids?
I'm pretty sure it's a very long Excel sheet with a lot of ghetto black names in it.
I don't think he, like, calls any of his children by their names.
You think he calls them numbers like A247?
No, like, he's always like, oh, darling, or honey.
You think he, like, knocks on the door to, like, meet up with, like, his 87th baby mama, and he's, like, whispering, so what's his name again? What's the name?
Yep.
You think he, like, preps before he walks in the house, like, Danielson.
Yeah. Because it's like, even if you keep a list with pictures of them,
yeah,
it's gonna be hard to go through the list.
Yeah. What do you think about this? There were some people that criticized this film, especially black women, and also some black men, because they're like, Ari, is a lot of the things, like a lot of the stereotypes people have about black men, being irresponsible with our genitalia, irresponsible with reproducing, being bums, living at their mamas, you know what I mean? Living
Hmm.
off their baby mamas. That's Ari, technically. When you take away the blue eyes and the perfect teeth, this man low key he's a Pookie. He's a Ray Ray.
Wow, you don't have to even take away the looks. He is already like that.
Yeah.
Like the looks don't change anything about his character and his lifestyle.
Right, right. But there are criticisms that, a lot of these black women, because we do see a lot of black women, piling around Ari, getting that semen, you know what I mean? And there's a Facebook group called Ari's Baby Mamas. That's a real thing,
Oh my
right?
god.
Yeah, Ari's Baby Mamas. And it's sort of like, some people criticizing these black women for, choosing this type of man to reproduce with. Any comments on that?
Um, to me, what I felt was that those women, even if the ones that wanted Ari involved in their lives, don't really take his role seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just like, cause if I remember correctly, there was like this one black lady and she said something like, he's here and he's fun and, we have fun or whatever, but, it didn't feel like, she was taking him seriously. It's sort of
Mm-hmm.
like just a fun thing that comes with having a baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, I think any woman at this point, if you know Ari's history, I think regardless of how you're racialized, you should be judged and shunned, and all the shade goes to you for letting Ari get you pregnant at this point. Like after 100, after he had like a documentary like from every single news outlet covering this wild IDF Jew running around inseminating everybody, right? Like if you're still allowing that man to like put that female condom in you deserve all the smoke, regardless of
Yes.
race.
I agree because I'm curious right now. Sorry, I was like just like strolling about Ari on the internet, and I have his Facebook profile with me. And in his Facebook profile, he has a photo with Tyler Perry,
Oh wow.
and he's wearing a T-shirt that says "Who's the Daddy?"
Wow.
And
Wow.
just in April this year, his total kids number is 164. And in April, he posted a Reels video of
Hmm.
him going into a hotel room, turning on the TV, and grabbing a semen cup.
Wow. See, I don't think this sort of behavior should be celebrated. Like Ari is a character and he would be like TV gold even if he only had like one kid. Like still, Tyler Perry should not be even thinking about making a horrible black exploitation film with Megan Good talking about Ari's baby mama, like Ari's forgotten babies. You get what I'm saying? Like I know that's what is going on in Tyler Perry's wicked mind, but don't do it, Tyler. Don't do it.
Yeah, I don't think he knew who Ari was.
No, he knows. He knows. He
You think
knows.
so?
Yes.
Wow.
He knows, he knows. But, there was a part of this film where Tyree says, my father had 25 kids, but I think he was doing it out of pleasure. For me, it's something different. But I think all of these guys get some pleasure out of this. But it's not the pleasure of helping people. It's the pleasure of attention. Like, cause none of these guys in any other universe, had they not decided to donate their sperm, would they have this documentary shot about them? Would they have people talking about them? You know what I mean? Steve Walker has an IMDb page. You get what I'm saying? So,
Wow. Yeah, I don't think it would.
yeah. So, anything else crazy on Ari's Facebook?
It's very crazy. It's very crazy. It's like he's basically like a little celebrity at this point. Israel is still making like articles about him.
Yeah.
And he's sharing them. Like, they made an article called Fatherhood Fetish.
Yeah.
Film follows sperm donor with 130 kids.
Yeah. No, that's insane. That's insane. This is this is the largest psychological operation any Secret Service agency has ever done. And Mossad is showing that they are bulletproof. They cannot be defeated, and the tribe will live on.
Wow. Yeah. And I don't know. The worst part, I guess, are the comments, because they're all good.
Oh, wow.
Like, there's this old black lady that's saying, like, oh, such a cutie. But I don't think she
Yeah.
knows. Or maybe she's like the grandmother of one of his kids.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't know what he is trying to do, but we don't need that many Drakes, okay? We don't need, we don't need that many Drakes and J. Coles. Like, 2 is enough, okay?
Yeah.
But, man, I hope we're not leaving anything off the table, because one of the things I hate about doing these reviews is I think about the movies even more after we shut them off, and then I have so many more ideas. But this was a fun documentary. I think we could do final scores right now. Overall, I really, really like it. I think I give this a 9, a solid 9. It's not too long. It's not overbearingly long. It's only an hour and 26 minutes. It talks about a fascinating topic for this underworld in America. And, yeah, it's a very it's a new way of doing the documentary style, which I greatly appreciate, because documentaries have been done the same way for a long, long time. And this is a new twist on this type of cinema. So I give this a 9. The only thing I really hated was the text on screen. I just really hate that. Find new ways of conveying messages. I don't want to see bubbles. No bubbles. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on this one. I'm gonna give it a 9 as well. I don't know what I'm taking out, like, as one point, honestly. But I'm just like, yeah. My score is gonna be 9 and not a 10. And I don't know why, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been episode 88, Simon and Akdi Movie Reviews. Spermworld is done. If you have any films you want us to watch, put them in the comments. Any thoughts about the film, put it in the comments. We read them all. We'll check them all out. And y'all be easy out there. Peace.